Okay, the mic is now on. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. We are so glad you're joining us today. We are live from Dave's office. I'm Hal and Pastor Dave Kettleson. We are here to just stay in touch with you, stay informed with what's going on. And today we have a special guest. Dave, why don't you introduce us to our guest?
Yes, I've got one of my really good friends. We actually run together. His name is Dr. Carlton Vole. He's a general internal medicine doctor right here in Chattanooga on Gun Barrel. Tell us a little bit about what you do, Carlton.
Well, basically, internal medicine is adult health care. So I do primary care for adults. If you're over the age of 18 or close to the age of 18,
Just a little.
you're a little over 18. But if you're over the age of 18, then that encompasses adult health care, and that's my specialty. Primary care for adults.
Hey, something happened around December. What happened back in December? I thought I'd just share this kind of fun little tip.
Yeah.
December 8th.
Okay, December. I thought you were talking about Christmas. Okay.
Well, no.
A little bit before. Okay, so December 8th, Dave and I went out to Sacramento and ran the Sacramento Marathon, California International Marathon. And we both came away with Boston qualifiers. So for Dave, that's not much. For me, that's a big deal. He's been there many times, but this will be my first. So I enjoyed the journey with Dave for sure.
It was a great day, great experience. Of course, the Boston Marathon has been postponed until next year, so we'll run it together.
September, I think.
Oh yeah, till September.
Yeah.
Well, Carlton, tell us a little bit about, a lot of people are sequestered in their homes, not getting out much. What are some things that they can do during this time to keep a positive mind and just have a great outlook on life?
Yeah, it's a difficult time of the year because this is a time of the year when people get a little more gloomy and depressed. It's cloudy, it's raining outside, it's cold. You've just come through the holidays, and now you're getting ready for taxes. You've got credit card bills from the holidays, and people are already feeling a little bit down in the dumps. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you have COVID, just pop up and completely, catch you off guard and take you out of your lifestyle. Most Americans don't like to be held back. They like to get out and mingle and go places and travel. And so this has really sort of dampened the American spirit.
Yeah. Do you still get out and do your exercises?
I do. I get up in the morning and I try and run every morning. And most of my training is, with one or two other guys, and so we keep a healthy distance, a few feet from each other, but that's good time for us to chat and we, enjoy the physical activity.
Cool. And the guys at Fast Break that I run with, they're keeping their social distancing about 6 feet apart.
That's right.
We run and got to yell back and forth if we're going to talk. But
exactly.
But it's been fun. Well, what are some other things that they can do during this time? Maybe just as you go through your life, what are some things that you've been able to do to keep a healthy mindset and keep that hope alive?
Right. So I think more than ever right now in a pandemic where you have a virus that appears to be possibly 5 to 10 times more contagious than the flu, and we're in flu season, obviously, already. And I think some of the social distancing that we're getting with COVID is actually cutting back on the flu cases. And flu season typically starts to wind down around now anyway. And so we're seeing less flu maybe this year because of some of the hand washing and some of the good principles that we just need to take to heart. I mean, so what I like to tell people is you want to get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. You don't want to cheat sleep right now because you're going to hurt your immune system when you do that. You probably want to stay away from sugar and you want to eat a really good diet. So eat a good plant-based diet, whole food plant-based diet, less processed foods, more whole foods, staying away from animal products as much as possible, staying away from sugary, sweet drinks and things like that. So eating a good clean diet, drinking lots of water, and getting plenty of rest are three basic things that you can do to help your immune system. And then getting outside when you can, when the weather has been a little bit better recently, when the weather's a little bit nicer, trying to get outside and go for some walks or some runs or a bike ride. Try to keep the physical activity up because that'll also help strengthen your immune system as well. So plus it'll help you keep a clear mind, especially with all the stress, that's out there right now and the fear of the virus and the economy and everything else that's happening all at the same time. Gardening is a great thing. If you already have some of the tools that you need and the soil and so forth at home, then you can get out and use some of these days to do some planting, and that's both mentally and physically refreshing. So
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you, I noticed you said 5 to 10 times more contagious than
Right.
the average flu. Um, you've heard of New Start, like
Right.
nutrition, exercise, water, and all just the 8 natural remedies. You can look it up. It's called New Start. And just keeping that balance. I think balance is so important. But every morning when I wake up, I drink lots of water, have a smoothie, and try to stay healthy, get some exercise. But boy, that will help you immensely to
Right.
just mentally get through this and to keep a good positive outlook. So
I do have a question for you because I have some friends out there. Because you mentioned the flu, this being flu season. I have some friends out there who keep saying, "Oh, when you look at the numbers, the flu kills a lot more people than the COVID-19,"
Right.
and they're saying that we're just blowing all of this out of proportion. I know that you're not like the study expert
Right.
of this sort, but why is COVID-19 different
Right.
than the flu?
good question.
Well, that is a really good question, and I don't know that we know all those answers yet. And that's the problem. And I think that we have an illness that kind of came out of nowhere very quickly. And then because the information was somewhat suppressed from the rest of the world, when it finally happened, we were a little bit behind the 8 ball. And so I think that in this country in particular, I think we've actually done a very good job trying to get the information out there. And I think that our health professionals, the CDC and so forth, have done an outstanding job getting the information out there. But I don't think anybody really knows. I think that they know that it's a serious illness. As far as death rates go, we don't know where that point is going to end. But you're right. Since 2010, if you go to the CDC website, the flu has killed an average of 10 to 60,000 people in this country a year, which is a lot of people. And so some people would say, well, we're really blowing this out of proportion because look at how many people get the flu and die from the flu every year. And worldwide, we're only at, a few thousand deaths relative to the flu. And we're talking worldwide. In this country, I think COVID deaths are maybe just over 3,000. And so you think that's a relatively small number of people, but then again, it's only been here for a month or so.
Mm-hmm.
So we're if this doesn't go through a cycle and burn out in the next couple of months, how much damage could it do? And I don't think anybody knows the answer, which is why, and I agree with it. I think that that the U.S. government and the president and the task force has done a good job with basically saying, look, this thing wreaked havoc in China and Italy and Korea, and we want to stop it. We want to flatten out the curve, so you guys need to do some social distancing. If you don't need to be someplace, don't. Let's be sensible for a couple of weeks and see if we can get this thing to move through and get out.
Mm-hmm.
Until we can get some vaccines and get some good therapies to try and address the issue. But that's a very good question. We don't know. We don't know the details yet on how bad this is really going to be, or what it's capable of doing long term.
Right. And from a non-medical standpoint, I know that the flu can be fatal for a lot of people, but at least we have some treatments for the flu. There's some medications that can help curb it or slow it down or make it not fatal for a lot of people.
Right. And so the flu has been around for a long time, and this particular strain, this COVID-19 strain, is a little bit different than some of the others that we've confronted. And so we don't have all the answers for it, but we'll find out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure this virus out and we'll come up with something for it. Unfortunately, it takes time. And we've gone through some really bad, flu epidemics and other viral epidemics in the past, and we survived them and we come through and then we, look at developing vaccines and other things. But I think the one point that I would make about this, and there are a lot of anti-vaccinators out there, vaccination is important. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's a lot of misinformation out there about vaccination. And even though we don't have a COVID vaccine right now, this is a good opportunity to go back and take an inventory on where you are with your general vaccines. If you're in a certain demographic, if you're a diabetic, if you're over 65, are you up to date on your pneumococcal vaccines? Do you do an influenza vaccine every year? Are you up with tetanus and diphtheria vaccination? These are all very important. And an epidemic or a pandemic like this brings it to the forefront, because there are many people out there that say, well, so-and-so says that vaccination is not good for you and it's all a bunch of hype. And, there's always somebody out there, basically downing the vaccines, but vaccines are what protect all of us. Mm. And if many of us don't get vaccines, then we put other people at risk for those illnesses. And that's actually how you end up with pandemics and things like that. You've got measles, as a very good example. I mean, I think I saw the statistics for measles. I think measles killed 40,000 people last year.
Mm-hmm. Last year.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so measles is back, and so again, you start to look at lack of vaccination or ineffective vaccines or gaps in vaccines, and you start to see serious illnesses popping up. So the one thing I would say is make sure you get your vaccines.
What do you think of flu shots every year?
I think everybody should do the flu vaccine.
The only time I got the flu was when I took the flu shot.
Now, that is the most classic misnomer that's out there. And that's the one I hear all the time.
Yeah.
Well, do you know that you had flu, Dave?
Well,
did you get tested? So you don't really know, and that's the problem. So
that's fair.
When do you get the flu vaccine?
Yeah.
When do you get it usually? You usually get it in the fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what else happens in the fall when the weather's turning and things are getting colder and people get sick? They get colds, right? So you get a flu shot, and 3 days later you start to have the sniffles, and you think, oh, here we go, the flu shot just gave me whatever this is. And no, you just happen to pick up a cold. So, I mean, there are 1 million plus viruses out there, so any number of things.
I have to get a flu shot every year because my wife takes me over to Southern, and at Southern they give you a free cookie when you get your flu shot, and she takes my cookie. So that's why I have to get a flu shot.
You don't even get the cookie.
I don't even get the cookie, no. Thanks, Hannah.
Then you went on both fronts.
Yes, I know. Yes, I make my wife happy and I get the flu shot.
Exactly.
Now I've heard too, and I read an article where how they treat patients with malaria is being successful in this COVID-19. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. So there's a drug out there called Plaquenil. Yeah, that's what most people will know this drug by. And Plaquenil is used for multiple issues from lupus to RA, autoimmune diseases. It's an anti-malarial. It's in the anti-malarial family. And what they found was, and it's not been studied intensely yet. They're doing that now, obviously, but they found that when you combine it with a Z-Pak or azithromycin, that it does seem to potentially help people get over this particular virus, whether it just hastens the recovery or helps the virus run its course quicker. Mm-hmm. We're not exactly sure, which is what, Tamiflu does for the flu. It's an antiviral, so it doesn't really cure the problem. It just shortens the duration and maybe helps with some of the symptoms, but it's not a curative. It just kind of helps make things go a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And so this may actually help speed up, the healing and the recovery, but they don't know yet. And there's no well-documented controlled studies. And so they're going to want to see all those. Although I did hear something the other day that I think President Trump is trying to push that through pretty quickly, because there's enough information out there anecdotally to suggest that it works. that he's willing to let it go through if there's any hope of saving anybody, which
Sure.
I think we should. I mean, there's side effects to medications, but I think when you look at somebody that doesn't have a very good prognosis and they've got a lot of medical problems, that you basically pull out any tool that you can.
Sure.
So,
Yes. I mean, yeah, in situations like that, I think swinging for the fence is fine, but I wouldn't want, to make hundreds of thousands of sick, people just by giving them a medication they really didn't need.
Well, let's not forget that almost, everybody recovers from COVID-19.
Yeah.
And, I think they're changing up a little bit. They said it was really primarily an illness of the elderly. Certainly if you're an older person, you're going to be more susceptible than a younger person potentially. But it's knocked off some young people too, and it's made some younger people very sick.
I just reading where 25% are from 20 to 35. So.
I think that we're going to see increasing numbers. Well, the flu does the same thing. We lost several teenagers just in Hamilton County this past year from influenza, and we do every year.
Okay.
You'll see a healthy 30-year-old come in, no medical problems, and they'll end up on a ventilator and they die from influenza. So.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, looking down the road, how do you see this looking moving forward? I mean, I want to always tell our folks we want to focus on what happens when this is over.
Yeah.
I know that President has us shut down till the end of April, more or less.
April 30.
But how do you foresee this thing's going from a medical standpoint?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. I think everything has a life cycle, and I think that this thing will run through. It will run its course. The weather's going to get warmer and better, and I think that's going to help our situation. People will get outdoors instead of being indoors, and certainly if we're not congregating and if we're following the recommendations of social distancing, I think that will help expedite the exit of this virus. I would project that probably a month from now we'll be looking at it in the rearview mirror. I hope. I'm hopeful, but I don't know. I'm hopeful that we will. I think
you heard it here first. He guaranteed in 30 days we're out of this.
I think when you look at the graphs from some of the other countries, if they're accurate and if they're reporting accurately, it looks like they've been able to move through at about a roughly similar pace. Maybe we'll even be a little bit ahead of the game because we tried to jump on this pretty quick with the social distancing and shutting down some businesses, and I think it really helped when the president basically put the travel bans in place early. That probably kept a lot of the virus from getting here faster. So I think that did probably slow it down a lot. So I think that we'll be here in a month or so. We may be looking in the rearview mirror at some of this. Where we go from here, is it going to come back? Is it still going to be hanging around in little pockets? Probably yes. Will they come up with a vaccine in the next 18 months? Probably. Will we develop some treatments? I think so. Will we have some natural immunity that starts to flow through, like we do with the flu and some other things? I think so. Will we come out of this pandemic a different people, a different population, a different country? We were after 9/11. We started to do things a little bit differently. We go to the airport, we get used to being checked a little extra, and we don't seem to mind it. I think now we're going to look at the person in the corner that's coughing a little bit differently. We'll probably keep a healthy distance. I think we'll wash our hands more, which is probably a good idea. And I think that we'll be much more cautious with this type of behavior moving forward. We'll be a little more conscientious with how we handle things. If we have sick kids, we'll probably keep them home instead of sending them to school. If we're running a fever, we probably won't show up for work. We'll probably just stay home.
And not just for our kids or for us, but for others.
But for the others.
We need to think of others.
Being thoughtful. And so I think that we'll come out in a sense better for this on the other side of it. And I think the economy hopefully will pick back up and continue to move forward. But I think that we need to, in times like this, and I've reflected on it myself, is that we use this as an opportunity to think, you know what? We have a God that's in control of all this.
Amen.
Here we go.
There we go.
And we know that the outcome has already been determined, and we know that the devil's been defeated, and so we know that we'll go through some of these things before the end of the world. And this is probably just really a small taste of what is probably ahead. And so if we use this to learn to depend on God more now, when, yes, it's serious and it's scary, but not nearly as serious or scary as it's going to be. And if we work on a relationship with God, then I think that when that happens, we'll be prepared. So we can use this really as a phase of preparation for the future.
And that's really what our conversation is about today. I've been camping on a verse. It's in Psalms 27, verse 3, and it says that we can be confident that God is strong enough to see us through any difficulty. I'm paraphrasing, and that He's got this. And when we rely on Him, we can trust that the outcome is going to be in our favor. We don't know what the future holds, but we know that when we connect with Him, that we can be confident in Him. And He's on His throne. He's going to make certain. Now, I've heard, too, that, the peak is in 3 weeks or 2.5, 3 weeks. However, I feel that if we hadn't done this social distancing we'd probably be much worse off.
Probably.
No question there. So taking these precautions has helped us. Now, once we get through this,
right,
like you said, we're going to be probably really looking forward to getting back together, but we're going to be a little bit more cautious.
The good old-fashioned handshake may be gone. It's going to be elbows and kicks and
yeah.
I can tell you, as soon as we get the green light, Hamilton's going to throw the biggest block party in the world. We're gonna fill the parking lot up with everybody we know and just open it up to the community. We're gonna go. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
But we're excited about about what we're going to be able to do down the road. We have time now to focus and to strategize about what it is we want to do in the community, how we want to help, because we're going to have hundreds of new opportunities to be able to help people, and that's kind of exciting.
Yes.
I asked the elders to break up all the membership and to call everyone. Just let them know we're thinking of them, connect with them. And I started calling too because I wanted to be a part of this. And man, I'll tell you, it's really been neat. People, thank you, Pastor, and connecting with them, hearing a little bit about what they're going through. It's been good for our church in some ways to have a little bit of a different connection. And it forces you, as one of my friends, Myron Edmonds, said, that closing our buildings down has been one of the best things that's happened to the modern church, because it forces us to think outside of the building, outside of just a weekend, that we're connecting in different ways.
Right.
And that's why we started these podcasts. We just wanted to connect in a different way. We wanted our members and others to know that we're still together, even though we're not together.
Right.
So
and don't forget to give.
Yeah,
the church still has needs, and
my.
If this thing goes on for a long enough period of time, there's still a budget that has to be met.
Right.
So
about 50% of our members give on Sabbath. Only about 50% are online givers.
Right.
So if you're not an online giver, we're encouraging you to become a part of that, and don't forget to give. Thank you.
Yeah, he didn't put me up to that either. I thought of that on my own.
It was the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Well, anything else you could share with us that just kind of looks beyond this, that gives us hope?
Yeah, I think when you look at statistics, I think realize that you're in a pretty good position with good hygiene and with following the rules that have been laid out before you. If you can just weather the storm for a couple of weeks, almost all of us are going to get through this without even coming down with the infection. And then if for some unknown reason we came down with the infection, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get through it. So it doesn't kill most people, but we really don't want the infection. So let's do what we need to do, and eat well, drink plenty of water, get rest, do some exercise, and we'll all get through this thing together.
I was thinking of one of my heroes, Dr. Ken Cooper. He says you should walk your dog every day, whether you have one or not. So get out there. And the days are going to be better ahead. We have some rain today, but it's supposed to clear up.
It's supposed to be really nice.
Real nice the next few days. Just get outside. I mean, the red buds, the dogwoods, everything's just coming to life, the azaleas. So this is a great time of year to get outside. Even if you have, the rain's helping with the pollen.
That's right.
Too. So the allergies. So
it's a great antidepressant.
Oh,
it really is. And we have 2 Bradford pear trees in our yard, and those bloom early, and the leaves are starting to go away, which they are beautiful when they bloom, but I'm glad when they go away, because those are the smelliest trees.
Right.
It's like salmon just hanging in your yard all day.
Right.
And we've got
our whole 21 acres here is full of those trees.
Oh.
And man, you walk out there and
It makes for a beautiful walk if you, but instead of, a mask for COVID-19, you need a mask to walk our property back there in the spring with it. Oh, it's terrible.
well, anything else either of you would like to share? I think we're wrapping this up. I'm going to ask Dr. Volberg, would you have our closing prayer for us?
Absolutely, happy to. Father in heaven, just want to thank you again for the many blessings that you provide to each one of us here, Lord. And even in the midst of trial and tribulation and this pandemic that we're all going through, this is a worldwide event, and nobody is immune to what lies in front of us. And I just pray, Lord, that you will keep us in your watching care, as we know that you do, and that you love us and want to see our victory. And I just pray, Lord, that you'll be with each one that's watching and those that are not, and that you'll help us to maintain our relationship with you through it all, so that we can see you soon. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, folks, we will see you again on Thursday at 12:15. We are so glad you joined us. And we had promised from the beginning we were going to spend very little time on the virus. We thought this conversation was important, but we're going to get, just to give you guys more breaks from virus coverage, we'll get back off of that. We have different things going on. You see that we're doing our messages from home little series, little videos that we're making now. I'm encouraging people to send those in. Easiest way to do it is if you film just a little video with a short message from you or your family at home, just send it to us by message on Facebook. Go to our Facebook page, click send message, send us that video, and we would love to see that and share that with our group. We have stuff. We have a lot of great stuff coming up. What's our message this week on Saturday?
This week is victorious, and you don't want to miss that. We don't have to fear about what's ahead because God is already there. So you don't want to miss that. And I enjoyed watching some of our church families with that still connecting. So that was really great. Thank you, Hal.
Anything that we can do to stay connected and remind us that, we're still family. Even though we're not seeing each other every Saturday morning, we are still family. We still love each other. We still care about each other. And we're still, being here to support each other.
That's right. Hey, thank you all. May God bless you real good.
Real good. We will see y'all on Thursday.
Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Sure.
I'll shake your hand.
My pleasure.